Greetings. I am Queen Diambi Kabatuswila Chirimuata. Mukalenga mukaji wa Nkashama, Wabakwaluntu, Wabaluba, Wakasai, Wakongo. That is to say that I'm Queen Diambi, woman king of the Order of the Leopard of the Bakwaluntu people who are part of the Luba ethnic group in Kasai that is in the Democratic Republic of Congo. I am also Grande Mãe do Povo Bantu Brasileiro, that is a traditional queen of the African descendants of Brazil, and Reina de los Congo de Panama, that is traditional queen of the Congo people of Panama. It's really a great honor to be representing these people and to also be an ambassador for our cultural heritage, our ancestral heritage of Africa, and to also be one to recognize the absolutely amazing contribution and abundance of the African descendants in the world. So I'm honored to be one to work on reconnecting the African people of the continent and the African diaspora. So it's a really important work that many are doing around the world. It's a very needed work because it's about restoring our identity and kind of like restructuring the concept of what it is to be an African today. Over many centuries, the continent of Africa that was extremely plentiful and fruitful in so many ways suffered a lot of very traumatic experiences because of the human trafficking that took place there for close to 800 years. And, starting with the Arab, human trafficking era that started almost 800 years ago, and then the European that followed suit about 400 years ago. So these traumatic experiences actually completely, destructure the African continent and disturbed the peace of the people that were living there for thousands and thousands of years and scattered people around the globe. So we need to start thinking about how we can reconcile all these pieces. It's almost like a puzzle that's scattered around the world, and how we can recompose these pieces to come together to restructure the narrative about who we are, to take ownership of our own narrative, because too many times the African people were not able to, project themselves and tell the world who they were. And they inherited a very negative image that was crafted to serve for the exploitation and crafted to enslave them not only physically, but bond them also mentally and emotionally to an identity that was corrupted, because the identity of African people were taken as if they were not even human. They were just people, not even animals, because they were mistreated more than you ever mistreated animals. So that requires from us to regain our sovereignty about our identity. And because we are so diverse, and we were diverse before the continent, of course, Africa is the continent with the most diversity in terms of population. The DNA between the African people is more diverse than if you take the DNA of everybody around the planet. So we had great diversity indeed, but now that diversity increased with the experiences of those who were deported from the continent. And they also are cut off from the experiences of those who stayed on the continent, because they sometimes assume maybe that everything was fine over there. They left and maybe left like a paradise land, but it wasn't the case. So the stories have to be told on both ends. The stories of having to be taken away from your family, taken away from your land, your community have to be told, but also the stories of those who stayed, missing those who were taken, and those who stayed in chaos in societies that were completely shattered and destructured, and also then were enslaved on their own lands, like for the Congo or all the other countries of Africa that became colonies. So we need to reconcile, because the pain is immense, the pain is huge, And the effect of this episode of our history is lasting. And the narrative is important for us African people, but it's also important for other people because they also need to understand that they need to amend their image and their perception of Africa. Change in perception is quite important, not just for the African people, but also for all the other people on the planet, because everybody have also inherited a false narrative about the continent and about her people. The narrative and the propaganda machine was extremely powerful and brutal, supported by this biggest institution like the church, the Catholic Church, and other religious institutions and political institutions for several centuries. So the narrative have prevailed, and the narrative have seeped into the consciousness of most people on the planet, thinking that the lowest grade of humans are Africans. And this is completely false because Africans are the ones who've been there from the beginning of time. They were the original human beings on the planet. They are the elders of humanity, and they have also been the one at the cradle of civilizations. And they have contributed immensely to the advancement of humanity in so many ways that are absolutely amazing, but that we don't know about because either there was no interest in knowing, or there was a purposeful omerta that was saying, no, we disregard this information, we cannot tell the people. But yet now everyone has the right to know, because the African experience or the African history of thousands and thousands of years is filled with a lot of wisdom, with a lot of knowledge, and we owe that to humanity. We owe to humanity to restructure the narrative about Africa, because the narrative about Africa is also their narrative. And it's not easy, it's not always easy to reconcile. The truth is not always pleasant, because the truth can be objective, because everybody doesn't experience the same event from the same angle or the same perspective. However, we have been, bathed in the dominant perspective of the Western-centric perception. But I think it's time now to really give more depth and more truth to what really happened on the continent and to her people, not so that we can put any blame or, chastise those who are descendant of those who benefited most from this kind of enterprises, but to make sure that we create a safer space so we can come together and we can heal together.